I owed 3 people in the world: my landlord, my pastry instructor, and the cousin who'd slipped me $200 3 months before she died. Marcio Calder was not on that list. So when he cornered me in the Bellwood Hotel's marble vestibule, one hand braced beside my head, champagne flute dangling from the other like he had all the time in the world, I did the only thing that made sense. I grabbed the nearest stranger and kissed him. I didn't think, didn't plan. Just saw the broad shoulders, the dark suit, the fact that he was there, and I moved. My hand fisted in his lapel. My mouth found his. For one heartbeat, he went completely still. Then his hand slid to my waist, firm, sure, nothing hesitant about it. And he kissed me back. Oh God, he kissed me back. His mouth was warm, controlled. The kind of kiss that didn't ask permission but didn't take either. Just met me. His other hand came up to cup the back of my head, fingers threading through my hair, and I felt the shift. The way he angled just slightly, deepened the contact, turned a desperate grab into something that looked real. My pulse hammered. His thumb brushed the nape of my neck, and heat flooded my skin. I forgot about Marcio. I forgot where I was. For 5 seconds, maybe 10, there was just the taste of him, mint and something darker, expensive. The solid weight of his hand at my waist, the way his breath hitched when I pressed closer. Then the room went quiet. Not the polite hush of a dropped fork, the wrong kind of quiet. I pulled back, breathless. His eyes were dark, almost black in the low light, and fixed on me like I was a puzzle he'd already solved. His hand stayed at my waist, steady, warm, possessive. Behind me, Marcio swore softly. The stranger's gaze flicked past my shoulder, then back to me. His expression didn't change, but I felt the shift in his body, the way he angled slightly, putting himself between me and Marcio without moving his hand. "Miss," he said quietly. His voice was low, almost gentle. "You're shaking." I wasn't. But his thumb pressed against my wrist, and I realized my pulse was hammering. "I'm fine," I lied. His mouth curved, barely, not quite a smile. "No, you're not." I should have pulled away, should have apologized, made some excuse, disappeared into the crowd. But the crowd wasn't moving. They were staring at him. The man whose mouth I'd just claimed like I had the right. Someone murmured something I didn't catch. A name, maybe. The bartender 2 feet away had gone pale. The stranger's hand stayed at my waist. "What's your name?" he asked. My throat was dry. "Sansia. Sansia Vale." "Sansia." He said it like he was tasting it. His gaze slid past me again, landed on Marcio with the kind of stillness that made my skin prickle. "Is he the problem?" I nodded, barely. "Not anymore." He didn't raise his voice, didn't move. But the air around us changed, like the room had taken a breath and held it. "Walk away, Calder." Marcio's face went white. And that's when I knew. Whoever this man was, Marcio was terrified of him. "Viscari." "I didn't," Marcio started. I said walk. The word was soft, final. Marcio walked. The crowd stayed frozen. The stranger, Viscari, looked back at me. His hand slid from my waist to my elbow, steadying. "You need air." It wasn't a question. I let him guide me out of the vestibule, past the staring faces, through a service hallway I'd used a dozen times for catering prep. My legs felt unsteady. My mouth still tasted like him. We stopped outside a service door. Cool night air, the distant hum of the city, the muffled noise of the ballroom behind us. I pulled my arm free. "Who are you?" I asked. He studied me for a long moment. Then, quietly, "Someone Marcio Calder should have known better than to threaten." "That's not an answer." "No," he agreed. "It's not." My pulse was still racing. From fear or adrenaline or the way his hand had felt at my waist, I couldn't tell. "He's going to come after me. You embarrassed him in front of half the city's hospitality crews. He was already coming after you." Viscari's voice stayed level. "Cornering you in public. Making threats. He's escalating. Which means he thinks you're a liability." "I'm not." "Then why did you kiss me?" The question landed soft, but it pinned me in place. I lifted my chin. "Because I needed him to think I wasn't alone." "And now you're not." He stepped closer, not threatening, just there, filling the space between us. "But that comes with consequences. For both of us. What kind of consequences? The kind where I need to know what Marzio wants from you. And you need to decide if you trust me enough to tell me. I laughed, sharp. I don't even know your name. Cassian Viscari. The name settled between us like a stone dropped in still water. I'd heard it before, whispers in kitchen prep. Isola, one of the senior event coordinators, mentioning it once in the break room with the kind of careful neutrality that meant don't ask. Viscari, port contracts, security. The kind of man you didn't cross. The kind of man who made Marzio run. Oh, I said faintly. His mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Oh, I pressed my hand to my forehead. I kissed a stranger, he supplied, who's now very interested in why Marzio Calder thinks he has leverage over a pastry apprentice. My stomach dropped. How do you know what I do? Your name tag. He nodded at my chest. I looked down. Right. The little plastic clip with S-Veil, catering prep still pinned to my vest. God, I was an idiot. I saw him moving money, I said abruptly. 3 months ago. Envelopes, cash, handed off to a busboy in the Bellwood kitchen. I didn't ask questions. I kept my head down. But he knows I saw. Viscari's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. And now he's worried you'll talk. I won't. He doesn't believe that. He pulled a phone from his pocket, typed something one-handed. Which means you have 2 choices. Walk away and hope he loses interest, or accept protection. My chest tightened. Protection. You mean control. I mean a roof, security, time to figure out what he actually wants and how to neutralize it. He pocketed the phone, met my gaze. I don't leave people exposed, Miss Vale, especially not when they end up in my line of sight because of men like Marzio. Why do you care? Because you kissed me in front of 200 people and made it look like you were mine. His voice dropped, quiet and deliberate. Which means now, whether you intended it or not, you are. The words should have scared me. They didn't. I keep my job, I said. He blinked. What? If I agree to this, whatever this is, I keep my pastry shift. I keep my phone. I keep my independence. I held his gaze. I don't do cages, Mr. Viscari. Not for you, not for anyone. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then slowly, he smiled. It wasn't warm, but it was real. You'll keep your job, he said. You'll keep your phone. And in exchange, you tell me everything you know about Marzio's routines, patterns, timing, non-incriminating intel. That's it? That's it? I studied him. The expensive suit, the controlled stillness, the way his gaze hadn't left mine since the moment I'd pulled away from the kiss. I didn't trust him, but I trusted Marzio less. And I'd learned a long time ago, when your options are bad and worse, you pick bad and make it survivable. When do I move? I asked. Tonight. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in the back of a black sedan with tinted windows, watching the city blur past. Isola Ferre, the woman Viscari had introduced as my primary detail, sat in the passenger seat, silent except for the occasional murmured direction to the driver. She hadn't asked me any questions, hadn't tried to make small talk, just handed me a bottle of water and told me the drive would take 15 minutes. I twisted the cap off, took a sip. My hands were steadier now, but my mind was still spinning. Cassian Viscari. I'd kissed Cassian Viscari, the man who supposedly ran half the city's port operations, who had enough weight to make Marzio, cocky, aggressive Marzio, go pale and walk away without a word. The man whose hand had felt like an anchor at my waist, whose mouth had tasted like control and something I couldn't name. I pressed the cold bottle to my temple and tried to think. Lena had always told me, don't get involved. Don't ask questions. Don't owe anyone anything you can't pay back in cash. I'd broken all 3 rules in under 10 minutes. The car slowed, turned down a tree-lined street I didn't recognize. Townhouses, old brick, iron gates, quiet. The kind of neighborhood where people didn't ask questions because they already knew the answers. We stopped in front of a narrow 4-story brownstone with clean lines and dark shutters. No lights on inside, but the porch lamp glowed soft and warm. Isola opened my door. Welcome home, she said. I almost laughed. This isn't my home. It is for now. She stepped aside, waited for me to climb out. Come on, I'll show you around. I followed her up the steps, through a heavy front door that closed behind us with a solid final click. The interior was nothing like I'd expected. No marble, no gold, no leather furniture or oil paintings of dead guys in suits. Just clean lines, warm lighting, and the faint smell of lemon polish. Isola led me down a hallway into a kitchen that made me stop in my tracks. Gas range, she said, almost apologetic. 6 burners. The property manager's a food writer. She had opinions. I stepped inside slowly. Granite counters, double oven. A farmhouse sink deep enough to wash sheet pans. Copper pots hanging from a ceiling rack. The kind I'd only ever seen in restaurant kitchens or cooking magazines. My chest tightened. You're serious, I said. I'm staying here? 3rd floor. Your room's the one with the eastern window. Isola set a black duffel on the counter. My overnight kit. The one she'd somehow retrieved from my locker in the time it took Viscari to have his conversation with Marzio. Perimeter's been cleared. 4-person rotation on security. I'm primary. You'll meet the others tomorrow. I ran my hand along the counter. Cool, smooth granite. Real. What are the rules? Don't answer the door. Don't leave without an escort. Don't post on social media. She pulled a tablet from her jacket, tapped the screen twice. If you need something, groceries, clothes, whatever, you tell me. I'll handle it. What if I need space? She looked up. Her gaze was steady, unreadable. Then you tell me that too. Something in my chest loosened. Okay, I said. Okay. She pocketed the tablet. Viscari will be here in 90 minutes. You hungry? My stomach answered before I could. She almost smiled. I'll order Thai. I was halfway through a container of Pad See You when the front door opened. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. Isola didn't move from her seat across the table, which meant it wasn't a threat. Footsteps in the hall. Low voices. Then Viscari appeared in the kitchen doorway. He ditched the jacket. His sleeves were rolled to his elbows, and there was a faint shadow on his collar that might have been dirt. Or blood. Hard to tell in the soft kitchen light. Marzio's alive, he said. I set my fork down carefully. Good. He's also unemployed. The Constance umbrella doesn't tolerate exposure risks. He crossed to the sink, washed his hands with the kind of efficiency that said he'd done this 1,000 times. He'll stay quiet, for now. For now, I repeated. Fear's a short-term motivator. He dried his hands on a dish towel, turned to face me. If he thinks he has leverage, he'll use it. That's why you're here. You think he'll come after me. I think he'll try. His gaze flicked to Isola. Perimeter? Clear. Cameras are live. Rotation starts at 0600. He nodded once. Isola rose, collected her plate, and slipped out of the kitchen without another word. The silence stretched. I picked up my fork, stabbed a noodle. You're still here. I'm still here. Why? He pulled out the chair Isola had vacated and sat. The movement was deliberate, controlled, like he was giving me space to tell him to leave. Because you asked a good question earlier, he said. You wanted to know what Marzio thinks you owe him. I set the fork down again. My appetite was gone. And 3 months ago, a busboy named Emilio Ruz moved $80,000 in Constance cash through the Bellwood kitchen in a single night. Marzio was the handler. Viscari's voice stayed level, but his eyes didn't leave mine. Emilio didn't show up for his next shift. They found him in an alley 2 weeks later. Blunt force trauma. No witnesses. The floor tilted under me. Lena, I whispered. His brow furrowed. Who? My cousin, Lena Vale. My hands were shaking. I pressed them flat against the table. She worked the Bellwood circuit. She died 3 months ago. Same alley. Same? My voice cracked. They told me it was random. Wrong place, wrong time. It wasn't random. The words hit like a fist to the sternum. I stared at him. You're saying Marzio killed her. I'm saying someone did. And the fact that you were working the same shift, the same kitchen, the same night. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. Marzio knows you were there, which makes you either a witness or leverage, depending on how desperate he gets. My chest felt too tight. I couldn't breathe right. Lena's face flashed behind my eyes. Her laugh. The way she'd pressed $200 into my palm 3 weeks before she died, grinning. For the dream, Sansia? Don't let anyone take it from you. I didn't know, I said hoarsely. I thought it was just bad luck. She was always in the wrong place at the wrong time, always picking up shifts nobody else wanted. She was in the wrong place because someone put her there. Viscari's voice softened, just barely. And now Marzio thinks you know more than you do. I closed my eyes, tried to breathe. Lena. Oh God, Lena. I want proof, I said finally. My voice came out steadier than I felt. If Marzio killed her, if he had anything to do with it, I want proof, and I want him to pay. When I opened my eyes, Viscari was watching me with something that looked almost like respect. Then we want the same thing, he said. Do we? I don't tolerate men who kill women to cover their mistakes. His jaw tightened. Marzio made it personal when he cornered you tonight. The Constance crew made it business when they started using my city as a dumping ground. I studied him, the controlled fury simmering behind his eyes, the way his fingers rested loose on the table, ready. Why do you care? I asked. Really, you don't know me, you didn't know Lena. Why does this matter to you? For a long moment, he didn't answer, then. Because power without accountability is just cruelty. And I don't build my world on cruelty. The words hung in the air between us. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. But belief was expensive, and I'd been burned before. My knives, I said abruptly. You said someone would get them. They're in the third-floor closet. Isola retrieved them an hour ago. My throat tightened. Thank you. He stood, pushed the chair back, paused at the doorway. Get some rest, Miss Vale. Tomorrow we start figuring out what Marzio's really hiding. Sansia, I said. He looked back. My name, it's Sansia, not Miss Vale. Something flickered across his face, too fast to read. Sansia, he repeated, like he was testing it, tasting it. Then he was gone. I sat alone in the too-perfect kitchen, staring at my half-eaten noodles. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, the fortress was silent. And somewhere between the fear and the anger and the exhausted ache in my chest, I made a decision. I wasn't running, I wasn't hiding. And I sure as hell wasn't going to let Marzio Calder get away with killing my cousin. Whatever this thing with Viscari was, protection, alliance, mutually beneficial arrangement, I'd use it. I'd get my answers. And then I'd figure out how to get free. The room on the third floor was bigger than my entire studio apartment. Eastern window, just like Isola had said. A queen bed with a white duvet that looked like it cost more than my monthly rent. A dresser, a desk, a chair by the window. My chef's kit sat on the desk, the worn leather case I'd saved up for 2 years to buy. I ran my fingers over the strap. Lena had been with me the day I bought it. She'd insisted on splitting lunch afterward, even though I'd protested. You're gonna be a fancy pastry chef someday, Sancha. Let me buy you a sandwich while I still can. I pressed my palm flat against the leather. I'm going to find out what happened, I whispered. I promise. The room didn't answer. I changed into the oversized t-shirt I'd shoved into my overnight bag, climbed into the too-soft bed, and stared at the ceiling. Sleep didn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marzio's face, the champagne flute in his hand, the way he'd smiled at me like I was a problem he was about to solve. And then I saw Viscari, the way his hand had settled at my waist, certain, steady, the way his mouth had felt against mine. I rolled onto my side, pulled the duvet up to my chin. This was temporary, a means to an end. I'd survived worse. I'd survived this. I woke to sunlight streaming through the eastern window and the smell of coffee. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then I saw the white duvet, the 2 clean walls, the leather knife kit on the desk. Right. The fortress. I rolled out of bed, pulled on jeans and yesterday's shirt, and followed the smell downstairs. Isola was in the kitchen, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. She glanced up when I walked in. Morning. You sleep? Not really. Figured. She slid 1 mug across the counter toward me. Viscari wants to meet at 10. Go over what you remember about Marzio's routines. I wrapped my hands around the mug, let the heat seep into my palms. Where is he? Handling business. She said it like that explained everything. Maybe it did. You have 2 hours. Eat something. There's bread, eggs, whatever you want. I glanced at the stove. The 6-burner gas range I'd been too tired to appreciate last night. I hesitated. Can I actually cook? Or is that against the rules? Isola's mouth twitched. It's a kitchen. Do what you want. So I did. I found flour, butter, eggs, a jar of honey, a lemon in the fruit bowl that looked like it had been placed there specifically for aesthetic purposes. 20 minutes later, I had a batch of lemon honey scones cooling on a wire rack. Isola appeared in the doorway, eyebrows raised. You stress bake. I stress everything bake. I dusted flour off my hands. It's cheaper than therapy. She picked up a scone, broke it in half. Steam rose from the center. She took a bite, chewed slowly. Viscari's going to hate this, she said. My stomach dropped. Why? Because now he's going to want you to stay. 10 o'clock came too fast. Viscari arrived exactly on time, which didn't surprise me. He looked like a man who calculated everything down to the minute. Today he wore charcoal gray, no tie, sleeves already rolled up like he'd been working since dawn. Probably had been. His gaze landed on me, flicked to the scones on the counter, then back. You bake, he said. I told you, pastry apprentice. You didn't tell me you were good at it. Heat crept up my neck. Isola said you wanted to talk. I do. He picked up a scone, took a bite. His expression didn't change, but I saw the slight pause, the way his jaw worked. Sit, I sat. He pulled out the chair across from me, the same one he'd taken last night, and set a tablet on the table between us. I need you to walk me through the night you saw Marzio, he said. Everything you remember, times, faces, routines. I took a breath, focused. It was a Friday, late shift, around 11. I was prepping dessert plates for a private event on the 10th floor, some tech company's investor dinner. I closed my eyes, pulled the memory forward. Marzio came into the kitchen through the service entrance. He had a gym bag. He handed it to one of the busboys, Emilio, I think, though I didn't know his name then. What did Emilio do? Took the bag into the walk-in cooler, came out 2 minutes later without it. I opened my eyes. Marzio left. Emilio finished his shift. I thought it was weird. But I didn't. I wasn't going to ask questions. Viscari typed something on the tablet. Did you see Emilio again after that night? No, but I saw Lena. My voice cracked. I steadied it. She came by the prep station around midnight. Said she was covering a last-minute cocktail shift upstairs. She looked tired. She always looked tired. Did she say anything about Marzio? About Emilio? No, she just... I swallowed hard. She told me to be careful walking home. Said the city felt wrong that night. The kitchen was too quiet. Viscari set the tablet down. Lena was working the same event Emilio serviced. Same floor, same time frame. You think she saw something? I think someone thought she did. The words settled like stones in my chest. And now they think I did too, I said quietly. Yes. I looked down at my hands. Flour still under my nails. What do? We find out who gave the order. He leaned back in his chair, studying me. Marzio's a middleman. He doesn't make calls like that on his own. Someone above him decided Lena and Emilio were liabilities. The Constans umbrella. Most likely, but I need proof before I move. His gaze didn't waver. Which means I need you to help me map Marzio's network. Who he reports to. Where the drops happen. How the money moves. You want me to be bait. I want you to be smart. He stood, rounded the table, stopped close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. You already are. You noticed the drop when no one else did. You kept your mouth shut. You survived 3 months of Marzio circling without breaking. I got cornered in a hotel vestibule. And you turned it into leverage. His voice dropped, quiet and deliberate. You kissed a stranger and made him yours. That's not survival, Sancha. That's strategy. Heat flooded my face. He was too close. Close enough that I could smell his cologne. Something clean and sharp. Cedar, maybe. Close enough to see the faint scar along his jawline. Close enough to remember what his mouth had felt like against mine. I didn't make you mine, I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. You made that call. I did. He didn't move, didn't blink. And I don't regret it. The air between us pulled tight. I should have stepped back. Should have put distance between us, reminded him this was business, nothing more, but I didn't. What happens when this is over, I asked. When we find out who killed Lena? When Marzio's neutralized? What happens to me? You go back to your life. Just like that. Just like that. His gaze dropped to my mouth, just for a second. Then back to my eyes. Unless you don't want to. My pulse kicked. I don't belong in your world, Viscari. Cassian, he corrected. And you're already in it. Before I could answer, his phone buzzed. He pulled it from his pocket, glanced at the screen, and the softness in his expression vanished. I have to go, he said. Isola stays with you. Don't leave the house. Wait. But he was already moving toward the door. He paused at the threshold, looked back. The scones, he said. Make them again. Then he was gone. I stood alone in the kitchen, heart pounding, hands shaking. You're already in it. God help me, he was right. The next 3 days fell into a rhythm. Mornings, I baked. Isola pretended not to hover while drinking too much of my coffee. Afternoons, Cassian came by, asked questions, mapped timelines. We sat at the kitchen table like this was normal, like I wasn't a pastry apprentice playing spy, and he wasn't a man who could end lives with a phone call. Evenings, I tried not to think about the way his gaze lingered when he thought I wasn't looking. I failed. On the 4th day, Isola handed me a duffel bag. What's this? Situational awareness training, she said. Starts now. I blinked. You're serious. You want to be useful. You need to know how to read a room, how to spot a tail, how to move without drawing attention. She nodded toward the hallway. Change. We're going to the gym. The gym turned out to be the townhouse's finished basement. Mats on the floor, a heavy bag in the corner, a wall of mirrors. Isola walked me through the basics. How to scan exits. How to position my body to see threats coming. How to break a wrist hold. I was sweating through my shirt and breathing hard when the door at the top of the stairs opened. Cassian appeared, already rolling up his sleeves. How's she doing? He asked Isola. She's quick, needs to trust her instincts more. Isola grabbed a water bottle, tossed it to me. Your turn. I caught it, barely. My turn for what? Stance correction, Cassian said. Isola grinned, actually grinned, and headed for the stairs. Have fun. The door closed behind her. I stared at Cassian. You're going to train me. I'm going to make sure you don't get yourself killed. He stepped onto the mat, gestured for me to follow. Come here, I did. He moved behind me, close enough that I felt the heat of him against my back. Feet shoulder-width apart, he said. His hand touched my hip, light, impersonal, professional. Weight centered. I adjusted. Good. Now if someone grabs you from behind. His arm came around my waist, firm, pulling me back against his chest. What do you do? My brain short-circuited. He was solid, warm. His breath stirred my hair. Sansia. I blinked, focused. Drop my weight, elbow to the ribs. Show me. I dropped, drove my elbow back, not hard enough to hurt, but enough to make the point. His arm loosened. Didn't let go. Again, he said. Faster. I did it again and again. Until my muscles burned and my heart was racing for reasons that had nothing to do with the drill. Better, he murmured. His hand slid from my waist to my wrist, adjusting the angle. His thumb pressed against my pulse point. But you're still hesitating. I'm not. You are. He turned me to face him, kept hold of my wrist. We were too close. Close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. You're thinking too much. Trust your body. That's easy for you to say. No, he said quietly. It's not. Something in his voice made me still. His gaze dropped to where his hand circled my wrist. His thumb moved, barely, a stroke against the inside of my wrist that sent heat straight up my arm. Cassian, I whispered. His jaw tightened. Tell me to let go. I should have. I didn't. Why did you really agree to protect me? I asked instead. His eyes lifted to mine, dark, unguarded. Because when you kissed me, he said slowly, I forgot every rule I've ever made. The air left my lungs. His hand slid from my wrist to my jaw, thumb brushing my cheekbone. And that, he said, is dangerous. He let go, stepped back. The cold rushed in where his warmth had been. We're done for today, he said. His voice was controlled again, even. Get some rest. He left without looking back. I stood alone on the mat, pulse hammering, skin still tingling where he'd touched me. Dangerous. He had no idea. That night, a storm rolled in. I heard it coming from my third-floor window, the distant rumble of thunder, the way the wind picked up and rattled the old glass in its frame. I should have been asleep. It was past midnight. But every time I closed my eyes, I felt Cassian's hand at my wrist, his thumb against my pulse, the heat of his body behind mine. I forgot every rule I've ever made. I threw off the covers, padded downstairs in bare feet and an oversized shirt. The kitchen was dark except for the glow of the street lamp outside. I filled a glass with water, leaned against the counter, and watched the storm build through the window. Lightning flashed. Thunder followed, closer now. I didn't hear him until he spoke. "Can't sleep." I spun around, water sloshing over the rim of my glass. Cassian stood in the doorway, backlit by the hallway light. No jacket, white shirt untucked, sleeves still rolled. He looked like he'd been working. There were papers in his hand, reading glasses hooked in his collar. "You scared me," I said. "I know." "I'm sorry." He set the papers on the counter, moved to the cabinet, pulled down a glass of his own. "The storm?" "No, I set my glass down. I just couldn't shut my brain off. I know the feeling." He filled his glass at the sink, drank half of it in one pull. I watched the line of his throat, the way the dim light caught the edge of his jaw. "Stop it," I told myself. "What are you working on?" I asked, nodding at the papers. "Shipping manifests, trying to track a pattern in the Constance drops." He leaned back against the counter opposite me, mirrored my posture. "Marzio's crew moves money every 2 weeks. Same routes, same hotels. But the volume's been increasing. Someone's ramping up. You think they're planning something. I think they're getting bold." His gaze lifted to mine, which means they're getting sloppy. And sloppy men make mistakes. Thunder cracked, loud enough to rattle the windows. I flinched. Cassian's gaze sharpened. "You okay?" "Fine, I wrapped my arms around myself. I don't like storms." "Why?" I hesitated. We were alone. It was dark. And for some reason, the truth felt easier in the shadows. "My dad used to disappear during storms," I said quietly. "He'd go out to check on something, a card game, a tip on a job, whatever. And he wouldn't come back until morning, if he came back at all." I looked down at my hands. I learned not to expect him, but I never stopped listening for the door. The silence stretched. When I looked up, Cassian was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. "You're afraid of being left," he said. It wasn't a question. "I'm afraid of counting on people who won't show up," I corrected. "There's a difference." "Is there?" I held his gaze. "You tell me. You're the one who builds fortresses and calls it protection." His jaw tightened. For a moment, I thought I'd pushed too far. Then he exhaled, slow and deliberate. "When I was 14, he said, my mother died in a fire. My breath caught. It was arson, a message, sent to my father. His voice stayed even, but his knuckles whitened around his glass. I was 12 blocks away when I got the call. I ran. I ran so fast I thought my lungs would give out. But I was still, his voice cracked. Just barely. I was still too late. Oh God. Cassian. I got there in time to see them carry her out, he continued. I got there in time to hear her last breath through the oxygen mask. I got there in time to watch her die. He set his glass down carefully, like he didn't trust his hands. I swore I would never be late again, never lose control, never let anyone... He stopped, swallowed hard. Never let anyone I'm responsible for die, because I wasn't fast enough. The storm raged outside. Inside, the air was too thick to breathe. "That's why you can't let go," I said softly. "That's why you need to control everything. Yes, that's why you took me in. Why you're mapping Marzio's network, hunting the Constance umbrella." I stepped closer. "You think if you're fast enough, smart enough, in control enough, you can stop it from happening again." His gaze locked on mine. "Can't I?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "But you can't control me, Cassian. I won't let you. I know. And you can't save me from every bad thing that might happen. I can try." Lightning flashed, bright enough to turn the kitchen white. Thunder followed instantly, a crack so loud it felt like the house shook. I gasped, stumbled back. Cassian moved without thinking. His hands caught my shoulders, steadied me. "Hey, you're okay? It's just noise." But my heart was racing, my breath coming too fast. I'm fine, I lied. No. His voice dropped, soft and certain. You're not. His hands slid from my shoulders to my arms, thumbs brushing the inside of my elbows, grounding me. Breathe, he said. With me. In. I tried. My breath stuttered. Again. In. I inhaled. He matched me. Out. I exhaled. He followed. We stood like that, too close, breathing in sync, while the storm howled and the kitchen lights flickered. I hate this, I whispered. I hate being scared of something I can't fight. I know. His hand came up, cupped my jaw, tilted my face up to his. But you're not alone in it. Not tonight. My pulse hammered against his palm. His thumb brushed my cheek, so gentle it made my chest ache. Cassian, I breathed. His gaze dropped to my mouth. For one suspended heartbeat, I thought he was going to kiss me. Then his hand slid away. He stepped back, putting careful distance between us. You should get some sleep, he said. His voice was rough, strained. I'll stay down here until the storm passes. You don't have to. Yes, he said. I do. Because if he came upstairs with me, we both knew what would happen, and neither of us was ready for that. Not yet. I nodded, throat too tight for words. As I reached the doorway, he spoke again. Sansia. I looked back. He was standing with his back to the counter, hands braced on the granite, head bowed. Every line of his body screamed control slipping. You're safe here, he said. I swear it. I'll make sure you're safe. I know, I whispered. I left him in the dark kitchen with the storm raging outside and his ghosts howling louder than the wind. The next morning, I woke to silence. The storm had passed. Sunlight streamed through the window. Everything looked clean, washed new. I pulled on clothes and went downstairs. Cassian was at the kitchen table, papers spread in front of him, 2 empty coffee mugs at his elbow. He looked like he hadn't slept at all. He glanced up when I walked in. Morning. You stayed down here all night. I had work to do. Liar. He'd stayed because I'd needed him to. I crossed to the coffee maker, poured myself a cup, leaned against the counter and studied him. Thank you, I said. He looked up, brow furrowed. For what? For staying. Something flickered across his face, too fast to read. Always, he said quietly. The word settled between us like a promise. I took a sip of coffee, burned my tongue, didn't care. So, I said, what's next? He tapped the papers in front of him. There's a gala this weekend. Uptown, charity auction, high-profile guests. The Constance umbrella uses events like this to move contracts, make connections. You think they'll be there? I know they will, his gaze lifted to mine. And I need you there with me. My stomach flipped. As what? Bait? As my date. He said it like it was simple. The city needs to see us together, needs to believe you're under my protection, permanently. So we're putting on a show. We're sending a message. He stood, rounded the table, stopped in front of me. But if you're not comfortable, I'll do it, I said. His eyes searched mine. You're sure? You said you needed me to be useful. This is me being useful. I lifted my chin. Besides, I clean up okay. His mouth curved, almost a smile. I don't doubt that. He reached past me for his empty mug, close enough that I caught his scent again. Cedar and something darker, warmer. His hand brushed mine on the counter. Neither of us moved. Sansia, he said quietly. Yeah? Last night, he stopped. Exhaled. I shouldn't have touched you like that. Why not? Because I can't promise I'll stop next time. Heat flooded my face, my chest, lower. Maybe, I said, voice steadier than I felt. I don't want you to. His eyes went dark. For a moment, we just stood there, too close, the air electric. Then his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and the softness vanished. I have to go, he said. Isola will take you to get fitted for the gala. Whatever you need, tell her. Cassian. He was already moving toward the door, but he paused at the threshold, looked back. Wear something that makes them forget how to breathe, he said. I want everyone in that room to know you're mine. Then he was gone. I stood alone in the kitchen, coffee cup shaking in my hands. You're mine, God. This was going to wreck me, and I was going to let it. The boutique Isola took me to didn't have a sign, didn't have a storefront. Just a black door on a quiet street, and a woman named Margot who took one look at me and said, "Bold. You need bold." 2 hours later, I stood in front of a three-way mirror wearing a dress that should have been illegal. Deep emerald green. Silk that clung to every curve. A neckline that dipped low enough to be daring, high enough to stay elegant. A slit up the side that ended mid-thigh. "This," Margot said with satisfaction, "is the one." I stared at my reflection. I looked like someone who belonged in Cassian Viscari's world. I looked like someone dangerous. "We'll take it," Isola said behind me. I turned. "It's too much. It's perfect." She handed a black card to Margot, then met my eyes in the mirror. "He's going to lose his mind." My stomach fluttered. "That's not the point, isn't it?" I didn't have an answer for that. The night of the gala, I stood in front of my bedroom mirror and almost didn't recognize myself. Hair swept up, minimal makeup, just enough to make my eyes look bigger, my mouth softer. The dress fit like it had been made for me. I looked like a woman who could hold her own in a room full of sharks. I hoped I was. A knock at the door. "It's me," Isola called. I opened it. She gave me a once-over, nodded. "He's downstairs. Try not to kill him." "What?" But she was already walking away, grinning. I took a breath, smoothed the dress, headed for the stairs. Cassian stood at the bottom, hands in his pockets, looking up. He wore black, perfectly tailored, crisp white shirt, no tie, hair pushed back, jaw clean-shaven. He looked like power and control and barely leashed danger. Our eyes met. He went completely still. I descended slowly, one hand on the railing, heart pounding. When I reached the bottom step, still one above him, almost eye level, he exhaled. "Christ," he breathed. "Too much?" I asked. "No." His gaze traveled from my face to my throat, the line of the dress. Back up, slow, deliberate. Not enough. Heat pooled low in my stomach. "You said bold," I managed. "I did." He stepped closer until we were sharing air. His hand lifted, hovered near my waist. "May I?" I nodded. His palm settled at the curve of my hip, warm, possessive. "Everyone's going to look at you tonight," he said quietly. "And I'm going to let them. Because I want them to see exactly what they can't have." My breath hitched. His thumb brushed the silk at my waist. "But when we're alone?" His voice dropped, rough and low. "When we're alone, you're mine. Understood?" I should have been scared. I wasn't. "Understood," I whispered. His eyes blazed. Then he stepped back, offered his arm. "Ready?" "No." "Yes." We walked out into the night together, and I knew, with bone-deep certainty, that everything was about to change. The Carlisle Hotel ballroom looked like someone had dipped it in gold and champagne. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors polished to a mirror shine, women in gowns that cost more than my yearly rent, men in tuxedos that probably cost more than my car, if I'd owned a car. Cassian's hand stayed at my lower back as we entered, steady and sure. The room noticed. Conversations paused mid-sentence. Heads turned. I felt the weight of every gaze like a physical touch. "Breathe," Cassian murmured near my ear. "You belong here." "I don't." "You do, because you're with me." His hand pressed slightly, guiding me forward. We moved through the crowd like water parting, people stepping aside, nodding, some looking curious, others wary. A waiter passed with champagne. Cassian took 2 glasses, handed me one. "Don't drink it," he said quietly. "Just hold it. Gives your hand something to do. You've done this before. Every week for 10 years. His mouth curved, dry. "It gets easier." It didn't feel easy. A man in a navy suit approached. Silver hair, expensive watch, smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Viscari," he said warmly, too warmly. "Good to see you, Donato." Cassian's voice was polite, cool. "Sansia, this is Donato Riva. My consigliere, Donato, Sansia Valli." Donato's gaze swept over me, assessing, calculating. "Miss Vale, a pleasure. I don't believe we've met." "We haven't," I said. "Sancha's been staying at the Bennett property," Cassian said smoothly. "She's under my protection." Donato's smile widened. "I see. How unexpected." There was something in his tone, something I didn't like. "If you'll excuse us," Cassian said, already moving. His hand tightened at my waist. When we were out of earshot, I leaned closer. You don't trust him. I don't trust anyone. His gaze scanned the room, methodical. But Donato's been with my family for 20 years. He's loyal. Are you sure? He looked down at me, brow furrowed. Why? Because he looked at me like I was a problem he needed to solve. Cassian's jaw tightened. I'll handle Donato. You just play the part, I finished. I know. His hand slid from my waist to my hand, threading our fingers together. The touch was warm, grounding. Dance with me, he said. What? The string quartet just started. We dance, we're seen together, we sell the story. His thumb brushed my knuckles. Unless you don't want to. I looked at our joined hands, at the way he was watching me, like I had a choice, like my answer mattered. One dance, I said. He led me onto the floor. His hand settled at my waist. Mine rested on his shoulder. We were close, closer than we'd been since the training room, since the storm. The music swelled. We moved. He was a better dancer than I expected, smooth, confident, leading without forcing. Where did you learn to do this? I asked. My mother, his voice softened. She said a man who couldn't dance was a man who couldn't listen. She made me practice every Sunday. My chest tightened. She sounds like she was amazing. She was. He spun me gently, pulled me back. She would have liked you. How do you know? Because you don't back down, and neither did she. The music shifted, slower, softer. Cassian pulled me closer, close enough that I felt the heat of him through the thin silk, close enough to smell cedar and something darker. Cassian, I whispered. I know. His hand flexed at my waist. I'm trying not to. Not to what? His gaze dropped to my mouth. Not to forget where we are. My pulse hammered. Maybe you should forget. His eyes darkened. Sansia. A hand clapped his shoulder. We broke apart. A younger man stood there, mid-30s, sharp suit, easy smile. Ves, sorry to interrupt. Cassian's expression shuddered. Marco, what is it? Just wanted to say hi, and meet your date. Marco extended a hand to me. Marco De Luca. I handle Viscari's port security. I shook his hand. Sansia Val. The woman who kissed the dawn in front of 200 people. Marco grinned. You're either very brave or very crazy. Both, I said. He laughed. I like her, Ves. Good, Cassian said flatly. Now leave. Marco winked at me and disappeared into the crowd. Cassian exhaled. Ran a hand through his hair. I need to make the rounds. Stay close. I'm not going anywhere. We moved through the room together, Cassian shaking hands, making small talk, projecting control. I stayed at his side, playing the part. The woman under his protection, the woman in his world. It should have felt like a lie. It didn't. An hour in, Cassian was pulled into a conversation with a city councilman. He glanced at me, reluctant. Go, I said. I'll be fine. Stay where I can see you. Yes, sir, I said, teasing. His eyes flashed. Don't what? Don't call me that unless you want me to forget we're in public. Heat flooded my face. He turned and walked away before I could answer. I took a breath, looked around for somewhere to escape the scrutiny, and spotted the ladies' room across the hall. Perfect. I slipped through the crowd, pushed open the door, and leaned against the cool marble sink. My reflection stared back, flushed, bright-eyed, looking like a woman on the edge of something reckless. The door opened behind me. A woman walked in, tall, blonde, dripping in diamonds. You're her, she said. I straightened. Excuse me. The girl who kissed Cassian Viscari. She smiled, but it was sharp. Everyone's talking about it. Where did he find you? I'm not sure that's your business. Probably not. She pulled out a lipstick, reapplied it slowly. But you should know, Cassian doesn't do relationships. He does control. And the second you stop being useful, he'll cut you loose. My stomach tightened. You sound like you're speaking from experience. I'm speaking from observation. She capped the lipstick, met my eyes in the mirror. Don't mistake protection for affection, sweetheart. Men like him don't love. They own. She walked out. I stood there, hands gripping the marble, heart pounding. Men like him don't love. They own. Was she right? Was I just another asset to manage? Another variable to control? I thought of the way he touched me, gentle, careful. The way he'd told me about his mother. The way he'd stayed downstairs during the storm because I'd needed him to. That wasn't control, was it? I pushed away from the sink, smoothed my dress, and walked back into the ballroom. Cassian was exactly where I'd left him, still talking to the councilman. His gaze found me immediately, tracked me across the room. I gave him a small nod, "I'm fine," and moved toward the bar. That's when I saw it. A server, young, nervous, slipping an envelope into a briefcase under a table near the back exit. My heart stopped. I knew that move. I'd seen that move 3 months ago in the Bellwood kitchen. I looked around, trying to seem casual, and spotted the man who'd left the briefcase, Donato Riva. Oh God, my pulse spiked. I pulled out my phone, pretended to check a message, and took 3 quick photos: the server, the briefcase, the table. Then I turned and walked straight toward Cassian. He saw my face and excused himself immediately. "What's wrong?" he asked, low and urgent. "Donato," I breathed. "I just saw a cash drop. Right here. Same method Marzio used at the Bellwood." His expression went cold. "You're sure?" "Positive." He pulled out his phone, typed something fast. "Stay here. Don't move. Cassian." But he was already gone, cutting through the crowd toward Donato. I watched him go, stomach in knots. This was it. The moment everything shifted. And I had no idea if I'd just saved us or destroyed everything. 10 minutes later, Cassian returned. His face was unreadable. "We're leaving," he said. "What happened?" "Not here." His hand found my elbow, guided me toward the exit. Cars waiting. We made it outside. The night air was cool, sharp. A black sedan idled at the curb. Isola was driving. Cassian opened the door, waited for me to slide in, then followed. The door closed. The locks clicked. "Drive," Cassian said. Isola pulled away from the curb. I looked at him. "Tell me." He exhaled, slow and controlled. "You were right. Donato's been moving Constance's money through charity events for 8 months. Tonight was a test. He wanted to see if I'd notice. And I didn't, until you did." His jaw tightened. "Which means he's been playing me for 8 months. Which means—" He stopped. His hand curled into a fist. "Which means what?" I pressed. He looked at me, and for the first time since I'd met him, I saw something break behind his eyes. "The night Lena died," he said quietly, "Donato was the one who told me the kitchen was clean, who assured me there were no loose ends, who closed the case." The world tilted. "He covered it up," I whispered. "Yes." "He let Marzio kill her." "Yes." My hands were shaking. "And the busboy, Emilio?" "Same thing." Cassian's voice was hollow. "Donato's been cleaning up Constance's messes for months, maybe longer, and I trusted him." The car was too small, too quiet. "What do we do?" I asked. Cassian looked out the window, at the city blurring past, at the empire he'd built on trust and control and rules that had just shattered. "We prove it," he said. "We get evidence. We burn him down." "How?" He looked back at me. "With you." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Donato saw you tonight. Saw you with me. He's going to assume you're a liability, someone who knows too much, saw too much." His gaze held mine. "We use that. We let him think you're a problem he needs to solve." "You want me to be bait," I said slowly. "I want you to be the key that unlocks everything." He reached for my hand, threaded our fingers together. "But only if you're willing. I won't force this." I looked down at our joined hands, at the man who'd protected me, sheltered me, trusted me enough to let me see him break, at the choice in front of me. "I'm in," I said. His grip tightened. "Sansia." "I'm in," I repeated. "For Lena, for Emilio, for everyone Donato and Marzio destroyed." He pulled me closer, not quite an embrace, but close enough. "Then we do this together," he said against my hair. "And I swear to God, I won't let him touch you." "I know." The car sped through the night. Behind us, the gala glittered on. Ahead, the war was just beginning. The plan was simple. Too simple, which should have been my first warning. We spent the next 2 days building the trap. Cassian had me accidentally leave my phone unlocked during a meeting with Donato. Had me mention, casually, like I didn't know better, that I'd recognized the drop pattern from the Bellwood. Donato had smiled, said something polite about how observant I was. but his eyes had gone cold. He took the bait, Cassian said that night in the kitchen. We were alone, Isola upstairs, the house quiet. He stood close, closer than necessary, his hand resting on the counter beside mine. Not touching, but close enough that I felt the heat of him. When? I asked. Soon. He can't risk you talking, can't risk me figuring out how deep his betrayal goes. His gaze dropped to my mouth, just for a second. There's a port exchange scheduled for tomorrow night. Routine handoff, low security. Donato will suggest I send you somewhere safe, out of the city, out of his way. And instead, you'll be there, with me. His hand shifted, pinky finger brushing mine. The contact sent heat up my arm. And when he makes his move, we'll have him. My stomach churned. What if he doesn't make a move? What if he will? Cassian turned fully toward me, and suddenly the kitchen felt too small. Because he's desperate, and desperate men make mistakes. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe this would work. Cassian, I said quietly, if this goes wrong, it won't. But if it does? He moved fast, cupped my face with both hands, tilted my head up so I had to meet his eyes. Listen to me, he said, voice low and fierce. I will not let him hurt you. I will not be late. Not this time. His thumbs brushed my cheekbones. His gaze burned into mine. Do you trust me? He asked. I should have hesitated, should have questioned. But I looked into his eyes, dark, present, desperate, and I knew. Yes, I whispered. His forehead dropped to mine. We stood like that, breathing the same air, his hands warm against my skin. Then trust me now, he murmured. I felt his restraint in the tension of his fingers, the way his jaw was locked tight. He wanted to kiss me. I could see it in the darkness of his eyes, feel it in the way his breath hitched. But he didn't. Because tomorrow, everything could go wrong. And if he kissed me now, really kissed me, he might not be able to let go. Tomorrow, I said softly. Tomorrow, he agreed. His hand slid away. The cold rushed in where his warmth had been. The port at night was all shadows and shipping containers and the smell of salt and rust and diesel. I stood beside Cassian's car, wearing jeans and a dark jacket, trying not to look as terrified as I felt. Cassian stood in front of me, adjusting my collar with careful fingers. His knuckles brushed my throat, warm, deliberate. Stay where I can see you, he said quietly, his voice pitched low enough that only I could hear. I will. His hand slid down, rested briefly at the small of my back, possessive, grounding. 5 minutes, he said. I go in, finalize the exchange, come right back out. Okay. He didn't move, just stood there, hand at my back, eyes searching my face like he was memorizing it. Cassian, I whispered. Go, I'll be fine. I know. But his hand tightened, just for a second. I know, I said. His jaw worked. Then he stepped back, let me go, and walked toward the warehouse. I watched him disappear through the door, and immediately felt the loss of his heat. Isola was 20 feet away, pretending to check her phone. Marco was on the other side of the lot, watching the perimeter. I was bait, and I hated it. My phone buzzed. A text from Cassian. 5 minutes. Stay visible. I pocketed the phone, wrapped my arms around myself against the cold, and scanned the lot. That's when I saw him, Marzio. He walked out from behind a shipping container like he'd been waiting, hands in his pockets. That same easy smile I'd learned to hate. My blood went cold. Sansia, he said warmly. Long time. I took a step back. You need to leave. Do I? He glanced around, unconcerned. Funny. I was just thinking the same thing about you. Cassian's right inside. You really wanna... Cassian's busy. Marzio's smile widened. Donato made sure of that. Oh God. This was a setup, I breathed. Smart girl. He pulled something from his pocket, a syringe. Now, you're going to walk with me, quietly, or I'm going to stick this in your neck and carry you. Your choice. Isola, I screamed. Marzio moved, fast. His hand clamped over my mouth, yanked me back against his chest. The needle pressed cold against my throat. Don't, he hissed in my ear. His breath was hot, sour. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Isola spun, gun already drawn. Let her go, Calder. Can't do that. Marcio dragged me backward, toward a black van idling at the edge of the lot. His arm was iron across my ribs, cutting off air. She's my insurance policy. Against what? Marco's voice, sharp, from the other side. He had his gun out too. Against Viscari taking what's mine. Marzio's arm tightened. I couldn't breathe. You tell him if he wants her back, he meets me at the old rendering plant. Alone. 1 hour. The van door slid open. Marzio shoved me inside. I hit the floor hard, tasted copper. My wrist scraped against the metal floor. The door slammed shut. The van peeled out. Through the tinted window, I saw Isola running, phone to her ear, her mouth moving, calling Cassian, calling backup. Then the lot disappeared. And I was alone. The van ride felt like hours. It was probably 10 minutes. I lay on the floor, hands zip-tied in front of me, and tried to think. Cassian will come. He'll come. But what if he didn't? What if this was the moment he was late? What if I died here, and the last thing I ever said to him was, I'll be fine? I closed my eyes, forced myself to breathe. Thought about his hands at my waist during training. The way his thumb had pressed my pulse point, feeling my heartbeat. The storm night, his forehead against mine. Always. The gala staircase, his voice rough and low. You're mine. I'd never said it back. I'd never told him I loved him. And now I might never get the chance. No, I opened my eyes. No, I'm not dying here. I pulled at the zip ties. They cut into my wrists, but I didn't stop. Think, Sansia, think. Marzio had tied my hands in front, sloppy, arrogant. He thought I was helpless. He was wrong. The van jerked to a stop. The door opened. Marzio hauled me out into the night. The rendering plant smelled like rot and rust and decades of decay. Marzio dragged me through the main door and into the heart of the building. Concrete floors, broken windows, rusted machinery that hadn't run in 20 years. He shoved me down next to a support beam, threaded a second zip tie through the first, and secured me to the beam. Nothing personal, Sancha, he said, checking his watch. You're just worth more to me alive than dead. For now. Donato sent you, I said. My voice was steadier than I felt. Donato pays me. Big difference. He crouched in front of me, tilted his head. You really thought Viscari could protect you? The man's got more blind spots than a one-eyed dog. He'll kill you for this. Maybe, Marzio shrugged. But first, he's going to give me what I want. A clean exit, a fat payout, and a guarantee that nobody comes after me for losing his girlfriend. I'm not his girlfriend. Sure you're not. He stood, checked his phone. 45 minutes. Try not to hyperventilate. It's unbecoming. He walked away, left me alone in the dark. I pulled at the zip ties. No give. My wrists burned. Blood slicked my fingers, but I didn't stop. I thought about Cassian, about the way he'd looked at me tonight, like he was memorizing my face, about the way his hand had felt at my back, warm, steady there, about the way he'd almost kissed me in the kitchen and stopped himself because he was trying to keep control. I'm not letting you be late, I thought fiercely. I'm getting out of here, and then I'm going to tell you I love you, and you're going to kiss me like you mean it. I scanned the floor, broken glass, rusted metal, a bent nail near the base of the beam. Close, so close. I stretched, fingers straining, until I could just barely hook the nail with my index finger. Got it. I dragged it closer, gripped it between my palms, and started sawing at the zip tie. The plastic was thick, the nail was dull, but I didn't stop. My hands cramped, my wrists bled. The nail slipped twice, gouging my palm. I kept going. Outside, I heard voices. A car door. Cassian. He'd come. Please don't do anything stupid. Please don't trade everything for me. But I knew he would. Because that's who he was. The man who'd take a bullet before he'd let someone he loved get hurt. The zip tie snapped. My hands were free. I pulled the nail free, gripped it tight, and waited. Cassian walked into the rendering plant alone. No gun visible, no backup that I could see. Just him, in a dark jacket and jeans, walking toward Marzio like he had all the time in the world. But I saw the tell. His jaw was locked. His hands were loose at his sides, too loose, the way they got when he was fighting for control. He was terrified, and trying not to show it. "Let her go," Cassian said. His voice was calm, too calm. Marzio laughed. "That's it? No threats? No big speech about how you're going to end me?" "Let her go," Cassian repeated. His eyes found mine across the space, held. "I'm here. You're okay." I wanted to scream at him to run. "And I'll give you what you want," Cassian continued. "Which is? Safe passage out of the city. 100,000 in cash. And a guarantee that no one from my organization will touch you." Marzio's eyes gleamed. "What about the Constance crew?" "Not my problem." "Make it your problem." "I want protection from them too." Cassian's jaw tightened. I saw the war in his eyes, the calculation, the cost. "That costs more," he said finally. "How much more?" Cassian's gaze flicked to me, just for a second. Then back to Marzio. "The Port 7 route," he said. "Full access, no questions." My heart stopped. Port 7 was everything. The crown jewel of his operation. The route that moved legitimate cargo and kept half his empire running. The route his mother had helped build before she died. He was trading it, for me. "Cassian, no," I started. His eyes cut to me, sharp, final. "Don't." Marzio grinned. "Now we're talking, but I want it in writing. Contract. Signed. Done." Cassian's voice was flat. "The route's yours when she's safe." "She's safe now," Marzio gestured toward me. "Right there. Alive. Untie her." Marzio pulled a knife from his belt, started walking toward me. I tensed, gripping the nail tighter. He cut the beam loose, left my wrists looking bound, and hauled me to my feet. "There," he said. "All yours?" He shoved me toward Cassian. I stumbled. Cassian caught me, hands on my shoulders, steadying, his eyes scanning my face, my bleeding wrists. Something murderous flickered in his gaze. "We're done here," he said, voice tight. "Not quite." A new voice, smooth and cold. Donato stepped out from the shadows behind Marzio, gun in hand. Cassian went rigid. "Donato," he said quietly. "Ves." Donato smiled, polite, empty. "You're predictable. I knew you'd trade everything for her. It's your weakness. You care too much. And you care about nothing. I care about survival." Donato leveled the gun at Cassian's chest. "The Constance umbrella offered me triple what you pay. All I had to do was deliver them your empire piece by piece, starting with Port 7. You won't get it. I already have it. You just signed it over." Donato's smile widened. "And now, unfortunately, you're a loose end. Both of you." Time slowed. I saw Donato's finger tighten on the trigger, saw Cassian's body shift, already moving, already pushing me. "No!" I screamed. The gunshot cracked through the air. Cassian shoved me sideways, hard. I hit the ground, rolled. The bullet hit him in the shoulder, high, close to his collarbone. Blood bloomed across his shirt, dark and wet. He staggered, didn't fall. Marzio lunged forward, knife raised, going for Cassian's exposed side. I moved without thinking. The nail in my hand drove up, hard, fast, into Marzio's forearm. He screamed. Dropped the knife. I grabbed it, slashed through the remnants of the zip tie, and spun toward Donato. But Cassian was already moving. Even bleeding, even hurt, he crossed the space in 3 strides and slammed Donato against the wall. The gun skittered across the concrete floor. "You killed them," Cassian said, voice low and deadly. His hand closed around Donato's throat. "Lena, Emilio, everyone you cleaned up for the Constance crew." Donato laughed, breathless, defiant. "I did what I had to, and you never even noticed." "I noticed." Cassian's grip tightened. "She noticed." His gaze flicked to me. I stood there, knife in hand, blood on my wrists, chest heaving. Our eyes met. And I saw it, the gratitude, the fury, the love burning in his gaze. Then his face went pale. He swayed. "Cassian!" I dropped the knife, lunged forward, caught him as his knees buckled. "I'm fine," he gritted out. "You're shot, you idiot." I lowered him to the ground, hands going immediately to the wound. Blood pulsed hot and slick between my fingers. "Don't you dare! Don't you fucking dare!" His hand came up, cupped my jaw. His palm was warm, solid, real. "Not going anywhere," he said. His thumb brushed my cheek, leaving a streak of blood. Promise. I pressed down harder on the wound. He hissed in pain. I'm sorry. Don't. His eyes locked on mine, dark, fierce, alive. You have nothing to be sorry for. You took a bullet for me. I'd take 100. His hand slid to the back of my neck, pulled me closer. Our foreheads touched. I'd take 1,000 if it meant you walked out of here. My vision blurred. You're an idiot. Probably. His breath was ragged against my skin. But I'm your idiot. Behind us, Marzio groaned. Donato was slumped against the wall, conscious but dazed. Sansia, Cassian said quietly. My phone, inside pocket. I reached into his jacket with shaking hands, found the phone, pulled it out. Call Isola, he said. Tell her to bring everyone. I dialed. It rang twice. Viscari? Isola's voice, sharp and urgent. It's me. We're at the rendering plant. Cassian's hit. Shoulder wound. My voice broke. We need help. Now. 5 minutes, she said. Hold on. The line went dead. I dropped the phone, pressed both hands back to Cassian's wound. He was watching my face, not looking at the blood, not assessing the tactical situation, just watching me. Sansia, he said softly. Yeah? I love you. My breath stopped. I should have said it before, he continued. Words coming slow and deliberate despite the pain. Should have told you 100 times, but I was afraid. He stopped, swallowed hard. I was afraid if I said it, I'd lose you. Like I lost her. Tears spilled over, hot and fast. You're not losing me, I said fiercely. Do you hear me? You're not. His hand was still at my neck, thumb brushing my jaw. Say it back, he whispered. Please, I need to hear you say it. I love you. The words came easily, like they'd been waiting. I love you, you stupid, self-sacrificing, control-obsessed man. I love you so much it terrifies me. His eyes closed. A shudder ran through him, relief or pain, I couldn't tell. Again he breathed. I love you. Again. I love you, Cassian. I love you. He pulled me down, careful of his wound, and kissed me. It was desperate and exhausted and tasted like blood and fear and relief. His mouth was warm against mine, his hand trembling at my neck. When we broke apart, I stayed close, forehead to his, breathing the same air. Don't ever do that again, I whispered. Can't promise that. Cassian. But I can promise I'll always come back to you. His eyes opened, locked on mine. Always, no matter what. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. They're coming, I said. I know. You're going to be okay. I know. His thumb brushed my cheek again, gentle despite everything. Because you're here, and I'm not letting go. The sirens got louder. Headlights flooded the building. Isola came through the door first, gun drawn, Marco and 3 others behind her. She took in the scene, Donato against the wall, Marzio on the floor clutching his bleeding arm, Cassian on the ground with me holding pressure on his wound. Well, she said, this is a mess. Secure them, Cassian said, nodding toward Donato and Marzio. His voice was weaker now. And get the medic. Already here. A woman in tactical gear appeared, medic bag in hand. Sir, I need you to... Her first, Cassian interrupted, nodding at me. Check her wrists. I'm fine, I said. Sansia. Check him first, or I swear to God I'll stab you too, I told the medic. She blinked, then almost smiled. Yes, ma'am. She worked fast, cutting away Cassian's shirt, packing the wound, starting an IV. Isola appeared beside me with another medic who cleaned and wrapped my wrists while I kept my other hand on Cassian's good shoulder. I didn't let go, couldn't. Within minutes, Donato and Marzio were in cuffs and being hauled into separate vehicles. The medic was finishing Cassian's field dressing. You need a hospital, now. Fine. Cassian's gaze found mine. She comes with me. Sir. Non-negotiable. The medic looked at me. I nodded. Fine, she said. But you're both riding in the ambulance. No arguments. We were loaded onto stretchers, his shoulder immobilized, my wrists bandaged. In the ambulance, they laid us side by side. Cassian's hand found mine between the stretchers, our fingers laced. Still with me? He asked quietly. Always, I said. His grip tightened. The ambulance doors closed, and as we pulled away from the rendering plant, away from Donato and Marzio and the wreckage of the trap, I held his hand and thought about what he'd given up for me. The route, the empire, the control, everything. For me. And I knew, with bone-deep certainty, that I'd spend the rest of my life making sure he never regretted it. 3 hours later, I sat in a hospital waiting room, hands wrapped in fresh bandages, wearing scrubs a nurse had given me because my clothes were soaked in blood. Cassian's blood. Isola sat beside me, silent, holding a cup of terrible coffee she wasn't drinking. Marco was on the phone in the corner, coordinating the cleanup. I stared at the double doors where they'd taken Cassian for surgery. Routine procedure, the doctor had said. The bullet missed everything vital. He'll be fine. But I wouldn't believe it until I saw him. The doors opened. A surgeon in blue scrubs walked out, pulling off her mask. Family of Cassian Viscari. I stood. That's me, she smiled. He's out of surgery. Everything went well. The bullet's out. The wound's clean. He'll need rest and physical therapy, but he should make a full recovery. The world tilted. I sat back down hard. Can I see him? I asked. He's in recovery. Give it another hour, then you can go in. He's been asking for you. I nodded, throat too tight for words. The surgeon left. Isola squeezed my shoulder. Told you he'd be fine. Yeah, I wiped my eyes. Yeah, you did. Marco appeared, pocketed his phone. Donato's singing, every name, every account, every deal. The DA's already building the case. The Constans umbrella's going to collapse by next week. And Marzio? I asked. Prison. Attempted murder, kidnapping, conspiracy, plus what we can tie him to with Lena's case. Marco's expression darkened. He's not seeing daylight for 25 years. Minimum. I nodded, swallowed hard. Lena, I did it. I got them. Thank you, I said quietly. Marco shook his head. You're the one who stabbed him with a nail and kept Viscari conscious long enough for us to arrive. We should be thanking you. She was magnificent, Isola agreed. I was terrified, I corrected. Same thing, she said. An hour later, a nurse led me to Cassian's room. He was awake, pale, exhausted, shoulder heavily bandaged, but awake. Our eyes met. Hi, he said. His voice was rough. Hi. I crossed to the bed, sat in the chair beside him. How do you feel? Like I got shot. Funny. I try. His good hand reached for mine. I took it, threaded our fingers together. Are you okay? You got shot and you're asking if I'm okay? Yes. I laughed, shaky. I'm fine. Wrists are wrapped. No permanent damage. Good. His thumb brushed my knuckles. Sancha? Don't, I interrupted. Don't apologize. Don't say you shouldn't have done it. Because I would have done the same thing for you. His eyes softened. I know. Do you? Yes. He tugged my hand gently. Come here. I stood, leaned over the bed rail. He cupped my jaw with his good hand and pulled me down into a kiss. Soft, slow, tasting like antiseptic and relief and us. When we broke apart, I stayed close. I meant it, he said quietly. What I said before. I love you. I know. I pressed my forehead to his. I love you too. Even though I'm an idiot? Especially because you're an idiot. He smiled, tired, real, beautiful. Stay, he said. I'm not going anywhere. Promise? Promise. I pulled the chair closer, sat back down, and kept hold of his hand. We stayed like that, battered, bandaged, alive, while the hospital hummed around us. And for the first time in days, I let myself believe it. We'd made it, we'd survived. And now, we could finally start.